was a perfect song as we are celebrating Pride Month and its true colors. And how many of you were at Pride yesterday? Okay, look at all the people. Look around at the hands up, right? This is really a welcoming and all-inclusive group. And, you know, I'm coming out. I need the world to know I've been, you know, here's the thing. I've been out for some time. And yes, I've been hiding it so well. But here's the truth. There is discrimination in our world. There is a lot of discrimination in our world. Unfortunately, when I start to think about it, 50% of the population of the world is discriminated against, and that is women, okay? People of color. How many of you are familiar with the term BIPOC? A few of you. It's not just racism in black communities. BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, and People of Color. I tell you what, 6 months ago, I did not know what that term meant. I have realized that I am ignorant in things of discrimination of which I do not participate in actively, but it's called, I am in my white privilege bubble and have been. It's so much easier to live in a bubble of comfort and ease and joy, and I don't want to be disturbed by the things in the world, but I'm disturbed. I am radically disturbed. I have chosen to be disturbed, but on the outskirts of disturbance. Spirit will not allow me anymore to be disturbed on the sidelines. It is not okay because here's the thing, anyone who faces discrimination is my brother, my sister, my aunt, my uncle, my mother, my father. One person has discrimination in this world. It's discriminating against me and my family. The human race is my family. I am not somebody who gets very riled up about things. My wife, she has that department well handled. I choose to be, I like my comfort. I'll be honest, I like being comfortable in my world. And you might too. And it's okay to be comfortable, but there becomes a time where I'm not uncomfortable. And part of the job of a minister is to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. So you might get disturbed, and that is my job. And if you're disturbed and need comfort, I am here to hear you, to see you, to honor you, to work together, to have uncomfortable conversations. Because without conversations, we can't grow. We stay isolated. The book study that I'm going to be doing on white fragility is all about our silence and things that we just don't even know. I don't know what I don't know. I just took a class on unpacking racism. And in unpacking racism, we've studied uncomfortable conversations with a black man. It was a unity-based teaching, and I started the class with, I don't know what I don't know. And I realized a lot of things. I realized I have a lot more to realize. How am I to step outside of my little white privilege world, which is very comfortable? It's really easy to live in my bubble, but I can't do it anymore. Again, I'm not here to be political. I'm here to stand up for the rights of people, all people, and that means I need to stand up. I need to speak out. And I know that there's a lot of you nodding your heads because we can't be silent anymore. It is so not okay. The fact that we had Roe versus Wade overturned, a 50-year, the rights of women, you know, that is just, and here's the thing, gay marriages and gay rights will be next on the chopping block. I'm married to my wife. It took a while to get that. That hasn't been passed that long ago. So we have, I don't like to use the word fight, but there's a fight. There's a war. There's a war in America. There's a war in Ukraine. There's a war inside ourselves. I'm here to empower ourselves. And how do I do empowering of myself and others? It's through education. We have to, first of all, have conversations and be willing to step outside of our comfort zones in order to see somebody else's experience. I probably can never understand what it is to be a person of color and the discrimination. Now, I can understand what it feels like to be discriminated against being gay, being a lesbian, right? I mean, a year ago, actually, in a place where I was serving in a Unity church, I actually felt nervous by talking and wearing this on my head because I felt that there was, you can speak the words, we can speak the words, we're welcoming and inclusive. However, I get the underlying sense, and we're going to the word, it's a word we often don't associate with strength, because we've been studying this month the spiritual power and ability that we have called strength by Charles Fillmore, who studied the 12 disciples and said each one has a quality, a trait, a power within, which we all have, but we often don't even know what that power is or what it means or how to engage in it in a way that is for us. So in the book Divine Audacity by Reverend Linda Martella-Whitsett, she talks about 3 aspects of strength. One of them is stability. And I spoke in the first Sunday of the month on stability. Being able to root ourselves in truth when the storms come. And Jesus, our great way shower, he was rooted in truth. When the winds of things came flying at him and tried to knock him off, he could always speak the truth. Truth is what grounds me. So I stay grounded in truth. And how do I do that? Is by educating, reading, taking affirmations, claiming the truth so that when the things come to knock me down, I don't fall over. The next one was perseverance, tenacity. To be able to stay the course when the tough get going, you hear that, when what is it? You know what it is, right? Tell me. Yeah, that one. Yeah. And so we are tough. We are actually spiritual warriors. If you're in this church or part of it in any shape or form, you have been called up to be a spiritual warrior. We have war. We have things that we need to stand up for and stay the course. It may not be easy. It may not be fun. That may be painful. But at the same time, what choice do we have? Well, I do have choice. I can stay in my little white privileged world and I can live there, and it's sort of fine, but it's not fine anymore. Again, I am speaking in a way that I have never spoken from the pulpit because Spirit won't let me, and I'm grateful for that. I get to have uncomfortable conversations. I get to invite you into those conversations about white fragility and what that means, and I play a part. When I'm complacent, I'm actually adding to the problems of our world. That's the truth of it. So we have the stability, the perseverance, the tenacity. And the third element she speaks of is courage. And courage, the root word Latin part of courage is cor, and that means heart. To have enough place in our heart to be able to persevere, to be stable in the midst of these storms. I love the idea of storms and that there's, the hurricane, the eye of the storm. Stuff is all over the place. That's why we stay stable in the eye of our greatness. That which is in us is far greater than that which is outside of us. And we do it as a group of beings that are conscious. We raise consciousness. That's the key. We start with our consciousness and how we're looking at things, and can I see things different, and am I willing to be uncomfortable? I went to the Unity Convention last week, and I also attended something that was the cow in the room, right? They had a big blow-up cow. And they talked about, a man from India did a presentation on the global warming and climate problems that we are facing, and it's a serious condition in our world, and you all know that. And he talked about how we feed animals, livestock, chickens, and everything, and how we do all that. And if we all went to a plant-based diet, how that could actually shift everything. Now, I have been, I've eaten chicken, I eat eggs and yogurt, and what else do I eat? Cheese, right? I'm now being called forth in a different way, which is uncomfortable. Can I be a vegan? What do I have to give up? I'm willing to do something different. I didn't know Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were vegans. There is a pamphlet that is for $3. It's in the bookstore, and it's with Charles Fillmore's, his quotes, his words about the care and compassion for all living beings. That includes our animals. It hurts me. It hurts me inside to realize, you know, I'm actually apologizing. I'm finishing off the dairy products in my refrigerator. But when I'm eating cheese or yogurt, I'm apologizing to these animals that are not in a very happy place because they're in mass production and they're in these little things. And it's like, okay, what can I do? Now, the man who did the presentation, he said, you can do something individually, but you can also do things as a community, which is going to be much more effective. So I'm inviting you to join me in an uncomfortable journey on many ways. Is it, you know, and I'm not going to be radical. Maybe I will be, but you know, I will do some gradual. What can I do differently? What can I possibly do that's more honoring of all living beings? To have the courage to do something that's uncomfortable. Hey, I like my little world, but I'm not okay with being in that anymore. So I'm going to be uncomfortable, and I'm going to learn how to be comfortable with my uncomfortability. And I invite you to just be open to that possibility for yourself. What does that mean? What does that look like? What is your part in creating a world that works for everyone? So the word courage is to take heart and stand from your hearts, which is what I'm called to do. But there's a word that often is not associated with strength. It starts with a V. Vulnerability. Vulnerability. How many of you have ever faced discrimination, first of all? Okay. How many of you, I don't even have to ask this question. We're born vulnerable, okay? Babies are vulnerable. There's no way they can protect themselves or take care of themselves or keep themselves from being hurt. Children are very vulnerable. We were born super vulnerable. We are dependent upon others to take care of us and not to hurt us, okay? And then as we grow and mature, we find out that this is a very painful place, this experience called humanness. And there is pain, and there is hurt. Some of it is intentional, some of it is unintentional. We've also hurt others, sometimes intentionally. Oh, that's like, how can we say that? Well, it's true. We know we have, and sometimes ignorantly, we've hurt others. We don't want to own our shadow. We don't want to own the parts of us that we may be ashamed of. And we all have those because we're human. We all have vulnerability. My standing here today is to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable is to be seen and to risk being ridiculed, rejected, made fun of. I was in a church where there became a time where I got to experience people are judging me for what I say up here. That hurt. That really threw me in a tizzy. It was my first, and I was just like, I thought we were here to love each other. But when I found that I was being judged by what I was saying, or people wanted me to be more of this or be more of that, you know, I want more of this, I want more of that. I'm not here to people please, okay? That is not my presence. I'm here to serve in the highest and greatest way, and if I'm not serving a community, then maybe I need to reevaluate. And I do take suggestions. I do listen to people, but I also know that some things are not mine to take on. But it's am I willing to listen and to love? I had a minister whom I didn't feel I was spiritually fed by. That was interesting because I was in a church where I was serving. And then Spirit, and I talked to Spirit within, and what's that about? And Spirit said, sometimes you can't necessarily be fed by another, and that's not the goal. Where can you be fed? And I realized that being fed was when I was in service to others. So I wasn't looking to the minister to feed me. That wasn't her job, to feed me. My job is to feed myself, and what is it that lifts me up and is spiritually nourishing? It's when I can be there for someone else. And so I shifted from my need to be fed to feeding myself and learning to feed or teach others how to feed themselves. Because I'm not the person who has the answers. We all have them within. But again, were you taught to trust yourself? Being vulnerable, to be able to risk being rejected and ridiculed for being who you are, to be able to speak your deepest feelings, your thoughts, your fears, your shame. Who wants to go there? I like my little box and I'm safe in my little world. And I can't be hurt if I put up my barriers. See, that's what happens as we grow older. We put together defense, barriers and walls, because then I can't get hurt. My dear beloved therapist, Stuart Bloom, called him Daddy Stuart until I learned how to be a good daddy to myself. He said, well, you can stay in that little box behind the wall so you don't get hurt, but you'll never feel the love either. I was like, ugh. So, he got me. So to be able to risk, and I know that I can't die of hurt, can feel like it. When our hearts break open and feel we're heartbroken, it's really the shell around our hearts so that we can feel those feelings. Now, there's an aspect of my life that some of you are aware of and some are not. I am married to Divine Joy Young, who is my wife as of 3 years in September. And we've been living together, not necessarily in sin, but in love. and that's been 5 years. And we're both ordained ministers with Centers for Spiritual Living. Well, she has accepted she was planning when we moved here that it was going to be, our vision was she was going to get a position in Albuquerque at a Center for Spiritual Living. That was not the plan for Spirit. Spirit had a different plan for her. And she has not yet, she's been a staff minister and a co-minister, but she's never had her own pulpit, her own people, her own place. And it's time. It is time for her to shine her light, and not to share the light, but to be able to be her full, authentic self in ministry. And we tried to share ministry. However, we're different. And so that was an experiment that we learned from. So my beloved wife has candidated at a church in Beaumont, California. They have fallen in love with her, as this community has fallen in love with me. And she's moving there to Beaumont, California. She's leaving on Tuesday. And people ask, how are you with that? Well, I'll be honest. I have, like the weather, I'm feeling a bit stormy on the inside. I feel the cloud. I feel heaviness in my heart. That's probably why the scale is heavier now, because I step on the scale. Wait, what's up with that? But the truth is, I love Divine. I love her, and I want more than anything else for you to be happy, to be in your ministry, in your light, to shine for those people that are calling for you and that you're going to show up for in such ways. I'm going to miss you. And part of me doesn't want you to go. And at the same time, the biggest picture is to see you shine your light and to know that you are fulfilled in your calling. And that is more important than anything else divine. So I am choosing to be vulnerable in speaking these words because this is a personal, and at the same time, I'm the minister here. You are my family. I need to be, and I want to be transparent with you. I want to be real. I want you to know me. And this may be not the typical way a minister speaks from the pulpit, but it is me, and it is who I am and who I came here to be. And I want to be real with you and authentic with you. And I know that you want that probably just as much, or maybe even more than I do. To be able to speak, thank you. Yeah, this is not an easy journey for me to speak such things of personal nature. One other piece of vulnerability, I want to ask you, where are you vulnerable in your life? Because I want to bring this to you in your personal life. Where do you have your own fear? Because we all have them. They're hidden fears. They're buried. They're in the closet. You can come out of the closet with your fears, your doubts, your worries, your concerns. Have a safe person or place to go and speak that. You may not have that in your home. I have no idea what your life is. But I am a person that listens and will be here for you, because that's who I came here to be, is to be a listening. I'm not here to change you. I'm here to love you through all of your experiences, whatever you face, whatever vulnerability, whatever you're afraid to share. Sometimes, that's why I guess confession in the traditions that have confession, sometimes it's just being able to be heard helps clear the decks without having someone judge us. And you don't have to do any Hail Marys or any of that stuff, because I don't even know any about that, so I promise I wouldn't have you do that. It's about taking risks and being vulnerable. I'm most vulnerable, to be honest. My growing up, my dad was a very high-functioning being, an entrepreneur. He was a high-functioning alcoholic. He had that disease. It wasn't a fault. It was something that it was passed on. And he also had rage. But his rage, I didn't understand his rage, or when he would get pissed off. And he'd leave, because my mom, on the other hand, she'd cry. So what I learned growing up is that when one cries and is vulnerable, one is left. No one is there, abandoned. So for me to ever cry in front of others is very challenging to do, because Dad, who couldn't handle his vulnerability, his way of caring and loving was to be ticked off. And he couldn't handle it, because the culture of the Finnish culture, men, is not to share your feelings and be into your sadness or your fears. So he'd get mad and stomp off. And then I had that experience myself. So it's called, well, I don't want to feel abandoned, so you think I'm going to cry in front of you? No, most likely. My tendency is, when I'm feeling most vulnerable and sad, I'll get mad instead, because it's the secondary emotion. I'm going to express my anger. This morning I felt kind of grumpy, and I thought, well, what's underneath that? It's my sadness. My wife is leaving in 2 days. So I have the awareness that I'm not really mad, I'm really sad, but it's my way of dealing, and I understand, and I do have my tears, and I will have more of them. So now I've been vulnerable. and I'm going to ask you all to just be willing to look at your own vulnerability and realize that it is a strength. Brene Brown speaks of this. She says that it can be your greatest strength if you're willing to stand up and face the fear. Being brave and being vulnerable doesn't mean you haven't got the fear. In fact, that's what defines it. I'm going to close with this quote by Unknown. You know Unknown, right? It's called Risks. To laugh is to appear being the fool. To weep is to risk being sentimental. To reach out for another is to risk involvement. To expose feelings is to risk exposing your true self. To place your ideas, your dreams before the crowd is to risk their loss. To love is to risk not being loved in return. To live is to risk dying. To hope is to risk despair. To try is to risk failure. But the risks must be taken, because the greatest hazard in life is to risk nothing. The person who risks nothing, does nothing, has nothing, is nothing. He may avoid suffering and sorrow, but he simply cannot learn, feel, change, grow, love, and live. Chained by his certitudes, he is a slave. He has forfeited freedom. Only a person who risks is free. The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. And the realist adjusts the sails. May you know that this community is where you're free to be you. And so it is. Thank you.
We're going off script. Oh, boy. We have to go off script.
Favorite thing to do.
Yes. So, Reverend Divine, I know that you're not our official minister, but we have adopted you, and we love you, and we are also going to miss you. So, I would like to do our unity blessing. This has been a tradition for community members who are either leaving or going on to different roles. And it goes like this. So I'm going to say it once, and then we can all affirm it together. It goes, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divine as you, Reverend Divine. Okay, so together, and I know the words are a little off, so this is the version that we're doing this morning. So together, if everyone could stand, let's bless her. Reverend Divine, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the divine as you. Thank you for blessing us with your presence. We know that this is an amazing, beautiful opportunity. You are going to bless the next community just like you did us. So we thank you. And thank you, Reverend Liz, for sharing her with us for this brief time. Thank you.